So as a part of my game plan of becoming a doctor, I had to study neuroscience for 6 months, which is actually nothing when you keep in mind that I still have to study for almost 10 more years. So this video is going to be about the most fascinating things I've learned studying neuroscience. And don't worry, it's not going to be about boring details, because most of the stuff we learned in medical school is about pathways, neuroanatomy, and neurological diseases. And those things are not relevant for the average person. So I'm going to break down the most interesting things that I've learned into lessons that you can use in your life. So let's talk about a very mind-blowing thing called neuroplasticity. 30 years ago, if you asked a scientist what would happen to my brain after I become an adult, the answer would have been simple. You are done. Finito. And it's not that you couldn't learn new things, but scientists believe that by adulthood, your brain was fully developed. But then, something incredible happened. We developed tools that let us actually look inside the living brain. Functional brain imaging. And for the first time, we could see the brain working in real time. And what we saw completely flipped the story. Your brain is not set in stone. Learning doesn't just add information to your brain. It physically reshapes it. I mean, at a cellular level. And this ability is called neural plasticity. Plasticity means something adaptable, something that is able to reshape itself based on experience. And your brain is designed to change. Let's zoom in. Your brain is made up of neurons, specialized cells that communicate with each other. And each neuron has 3 things. A cell body, branching arms called dendrites. They are the ones who receive signals. And they also have a long extension called an axon. It sends signals. Neurons connect at a tiny junction called synapses. When you are born, each neuron has about 2,500 synapses. But by the time that you are 3 years old, that number jumps to around 15,000 synapses per neuron. So 6 times more. So why does that happen? Well, because at 3 years old, you are absorbing everything. Language, faces, movement, emotions, everything. Your brain overbuilt connections. It prepares for every potential skill that you might need. Now, here is the surprising part. As you grow older, you actually lose synapses. So by adulthood, you have roughly half as many as you did at age 3. And don't worry, this is not decline, it's refinement. Connections that are not being used shrink away. If your brain built 10 possible pathways for recognizing that a dog barks, but you only need 1, it trims the rest. Your brain removes what's unnecessary, so what remains can become stronger and more efficient. It's not getting smaller, it's getting sharper. And that is fascinating, how learning changes you. When you learn something temporarily, like a strategy for a game or a phone number, your brain strengthens existing pathways. So the dendrites grow thicker, signals will be able to travel more easily, and connections become stronger. When you learn something deeply, something that you revisit, practice, and apply, your neurons build entirely new synapses. So this means that the more you rehearse, the more you retrieve, the more you apply, the stronger and more permanent those structures become. Your brain never stops remodeling itself. So the second thing that was super interesting to read about and learn about in neuroscience was the effect of exercise on your brain. Exercise feeds your brain. Your brain is greedy. Even though it's about only 2% of your body weight, it uses around 20% of your energy. So this means it demands oxygen, it demands nutrients, and it demands circulation. And when you exercise, your heart pumps harder. This means that blood flow increases, and that extra circulation, a huge part of it goes to the brain. So when you get more blood flow, you'll have more oxygen, more glucose, more sugar, more nutrients. But it's not just fuel. Exercise also increases the production of molecules that help brain cells function better. So apparently when you exercise, you're not just burning calories and trying to get a six-pack, you're actually making your brain stronger and healthier. So remember that. So One thing that I also learned was that exercise has a huge impact on memory. And this is where I was fascinated, because I was learning this difficult stuff, but to be actually able to remember that, I had to exercise. And here's why. There's a molecule in your brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this molecule is basically a kind of fertilizer for your neurons. When you exercise, BDNF levels increases. So what does that do? It promotes a process called synaptogenesis, which means the formation of new synapses, new connections between brain cells. And remember, learning equals connections. So the more connections you form, the easier it becomes to store and retrieve information. So BDNF, as a result of exercise, literally make it easier for your brain to absorb new material and build long-term memories. Obviously, exercise has a lot of benefits. I'm thinking about making an entire video in the future, breaking down every aspect of exercise. But now, let's move on to the next thing that I found super interesting, studying neuroscience for 6 months. And it's the effect of sleep. I used to be the kind of person who says, like, who needs sleep? I have things to do. I need to study, I need to go to the gym, I need to make videos. But after learning this, I try to sleep a little bit more. So let's talk about it. Humans spend 1/3 of their lives asleep. And yet, despite decades of research, it seems like we don't fully understand why we sleep. But here is what we do know. Sleep is not just rest, it's actually active. And that sounds super crazy, but it's structured. And sleep is fundamentally about the brain. Some scientists would put it this way: sleep is of the brain, by the brain, and for the brain. So let me break down what that actually means. Sleep protects and actively builds memory. The connection between sleep and memory has been studied for over a century. In the late 1800s, there was a scientist that showed that we forget information rapidly after learning it, especially in the first few hours. But then he noticed something strange. Forgetting slowed dramatically during periods that included sleep. And later experiments confirmed that memory retention after sleep is better than after the same amount of time awake. And this is because that sleep actively strengthens your memories. This process is called memory consolidation. It's when you learn something new, especially episodic memories. It's things like events from your day. They initially depend on the hippocampus. During sleep, especially non-REM sleep, these memories are repeatedly reactivated and the hippocampus replays them. Over time, these memories become stabilized across larger brain networks, especially the neocortex. So sleep does not just store memories, it reorganizes them. It integrates them. So in other words, sleep transforms experiences into understanding. So the body also influences the sleeping brain. The autonomic nervous system, like the system that controls heart rate and internal physiology, shift across sleep stages. So again, sleep is not a passive process. So what I've understood from all of this about sleep is that we don't really fully understand sleep yet. But we know it's something that is dynamic, it's something that's structured, and it's something that's very important for memory, like memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and it's something that you should get a little bit more of. I know there's at least one of you watching this video late at night. So that was some of the most fascinating things that I've learned studying neuroscience. I hope you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I might make a part 2 in the future. See you next time.